The reasons for this amendment are that when the British were in control of America, the American colonies, one of the gripes that the colonists had was that the British would imprison people that dissented, that didn't like what the British were doing, and they would just imprison them without charging them with anything and leave them in prison for a long time, and people weren't allowed to have trials, to face their accusers or anything like that. And so when the nation was created, after we kicked the British out, we wanted to make sure that wasn't going to happen here. So we set up this system of criminal law that makes sure that anyone who's accused of a crime, that there are specific procedural rights that protect them all the way through. And this amendment includes a number of significant rights: right to speedy trial, right to trial by jury, right to face your accuser, a right to assistance of counsel, to have a lawyer. So a lot of things that are real basic to the legal system were created in this amendment. Well, so I'm not sure, I mean, for most of us who are law-abiding, it may not seem to affect us much in our day-to-day lives because this stuff doesn't apply to us. But, you know, for anyone who's accused of a crime, these are very important rights, and I think it's important to all of us because in case we are wrongly accused of a crime or wrongly accused of something that we didn't do, it's important that we have these procedural safeguards in place to make sure that we get a fair trial and can you know, hopefully you know, see the truth come out in court. And as I said before, that's kind of what this is about, is making sure that everyone is treated fairly and that there are procedures in place to make sure that people don't just languish being accused indefinitely. Well, I think without this amendment, I mean, it's hard to say. Maybe these things would have happened by laws in the individual states. Maybe Congress would have passed bills that would have created these rights. But whatever Congress or the state legislatures can create, they can also take away. And so the chances are that without this constitutional right that's permanently embedded in the Constitution, those rights may differ from state to state, or they may not exist at all. And so it's hard to say what the country would be like, because there might have been 50 set of rules for 50 states, or you know, we could have descended into chaos and kind of a dictatorship like most countries that don't have these rights. You know, if you see what's going on in Russia right now, or you know, in Iran, or any country that doesn't have a democracy, the people there don't have any of these rights. Yeah, there probably is. I mean, I think the general law-abiding public thinks that people who are accused of crimes have too many rights, basically, and that they abuse those rights to get out of you know, being punished for crimes that they committed. And so I think the majority of law-abiding Americans probably either don't think about this amendment a whole lot, or they might think that, you know, this enshrines rights that gives too many rights to criminals. But I think the bottom line is that it's important for everyone, whether you're, you know, accused of something or not, to know that these rights are available and to have these procedural safeguards in place to make sure that, you know, if you're wrongly accused of something, you have recourse to get out of it. So why care? Well, I think we should all care that all of us in the country, whether we're accused of a crime or the poorest people in the country or the richest people in the country, that we're all treated fairly and evenly, even-handedly. And I think that's one thing that this amendment does, is it makes sure that anyone who's accused of a crime gets a speedy trial. They're not going to sit around in prison for indefinitely, not knowing why they're accused. And even though these rights may not ever apply to most of us, I think it is worthwhile for all of us that they're there, and I think we should all be glad and consider ourselves fortunate that we live in a country that has these procedural safeguards in place.